Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Ikigai Awakening podcast, a space where we explore purpose, resilience, and the stories that shape our becoming. I'm your host, Narina Mudli, and today I'm deeply honored to be joined by a guest whose life is a living testament to courage, grit, and radical reinvention. Cobus Visser, affectionately known as the Viking, is not just a motivational speaker or a coach. He is a warrior of spirit, a firewalker, an NLP master practitioner, and a man who has turned extreme adversity into a mission to empower others across the globe. From pain to purpose, Cobus has walked a path few can imagine. And today, he's here to share it with us. Cobus, welcome to the Ikigai Awakening podcast. And I'm really very excited to have you here. It's actually quite a privilege. I've read your book and I've read parts of your story. So I want to start off with where you're at now, and then we'll go back. But I want to know where you're at now. Where's Cobus the Viking at now?
Thank you, Narina. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for having me here today. I think part of this journey is to share one story in life, and it's about creating memories and enjoy life. They say you live every day, and to make every day count. So you say, how am I doing at the moment? So health-wise, I'm doing amazing. As you saw, I walked in here. Apart from the winter having a little bit of pain, my joints are much better than what they were in the past. So physically, I feel good. Then emotionally, I'm in a good space. Business-wise, it's growing. I've expanded my team. We're 5 people that is now working. Business is coming in. We're busy expanding internationally. So everything, it just feels like it's flowing. Look, like life, you're going to plant some seeds. Some are going to grow. Some is landing amongst the rocks, and it's not growing always as expected. However, it's about walking in faith, that knowing that you have a calling and that there's a purpose behind it. And just always keep moving forward. So and overall, I'm in a good space. I think the only thing that is missing is finding the right partner.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that most of the time might catch have an impact is me feeling alone, because it's a lonely. My kid stays in Jeffries, and they are luckily here with me for the holidays and taking back them on Sunday. So having them just gives me a little bit more sense of belonging. But knowing that they have to go back and then I'm alone again, I think that's the toughest part. You want someone to talk to, and you want someone to share ideas and dreams with. But yeah, at the moment, that's the only empty side.
Yeah, and I'm sure in time that space will be filled, I'm sure, in a good way.
Definitely. I think like in life, is you have to define, what I realize is define what is it we want.
Yes.
And who we want, basically, and qualities, etc. And then don't settle. I think when the potential relations comes up, that what I've learned is you can sort of know in the beginning if it's not going to work or not. And then if you have your list, you've been on similar courses than I have. If you know what you want and what you're after, don't settle for anything that comes your path. Rather wait. And sometimes we want to ripen the fruit faster than what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and we all make that mistake of pushing instead of just allowing things to happen and allowing the universe or whatever or whoever's up there to just let it happen and let it just evolve the way it's meant to.
Yes.
But Cobus, when I look at your book, and I know a little bit of your story, and I heard you speak last year at Robin Banks's Mind Power weekend, you've lived a life with purpose. Like whatever you've done has been with purpose. And I saw that you speak about the fact that you're a hemophiliac and how that shaped the way you did things. Do you want to just maybe tell us a little bit about that? And
so purpose, you talk about purpose, but I think in the life when I started, my purpose was totally different from what it's now. I joined the family business in Limpopo, retail, selling furniture, and I thought that was my purpose. We're going to build something big. And being part of the family business, that's what my dad created this business for, was for us, me and my brother that has hemophilia, to have something to work at, because we can't do physical labor. We can't find easily jobs in South Africa. So he created a family business for us to take over. So that for a long while was my journey. But hemophiliac, when I was born, was life expectancy for us was around 11 years old.
oh, wow.
So, but luckily, with the involvement and how can I say, the medical industry that has evolved, it gave us a opportunity to live longer. And the impact of hemophilia has on my life, and at that time, is living in pain 24/7. I'm not being able to use my elbows and ankles, creating anxiety, stress, depression, because being in pain the whole time is not the most amazing experience. And so working in the business, I thought that was my purpose. But like life happens, my first son gets born and I can't pick him up. It put me on the path of self-development. And you've been through it as well. The moment you start asking questions, things comes on your path that helps you to open up, to reflect inside. Okay, but why am I then here? What is my purpose? What is my destiny, as if I have to say it that way? And so, in a sense, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for hemophilia. I probably would be in the family business. I probably would be a sports happy person, maybe traveling the world. I would be doing totally different. So I think the hemophilia shaped me in my life to be able to do what I do today.
And you still, from what I'm seeing, you're still doing amazing things, and you've done amazing things. I mean, you've climbed Mount Kili. But the thing that I'm very fascinated with, and I suppose it's because of my experience last year, is the firewalking. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. So last year, when we went on that Mind Power weekend with Robin Banks, I had no intention of doing the firewalking. I'll tell you right now. It was when Yvette said to me, there's the firewalking afterwards. I said, okay, I'll just wait until it's over and then I'll leave. And I stood there and I watched, and I don't know what came over me, and I did it. I did it, and at first the fear was there, and then I did it, and there was such a feeling of accomplishment, and so many good things happened after that. So I want to know, how did that part of your journey start? The firewalking and the glass and all of these amazing things that you've been doing. How did that all start? How did it come about?
It's amazing that you said you didn't want to walk. There's a lot of people usually come and say, I'm not going to do it. And then at the end of the day, they do, because of the process that we take you through to discover you to be able to want to do it. So my first experience was on a retreat. And at that retreat, we did an arrow break, that you put an arrow in your throat and you break it, and then walking on fire. And that night I walked like 12 times and I didn't get burned. But first I was like you, I'm not going to walk. I'm like, this is crazy. You know, I come from a Christian background. I'm like, this is a cult. This is something weird. It doesn't fit in my framework. And then going through the process, being in the moment and living without regret, I decided, okay, I don't want to regret this. I'm going to take this on. And I walked on fire and I didn't get burnt. And I walked 12 times that night. And I remember I couldn't sleep. My friend was sleeping with me in a similar room. And I constantly looked at my feet and I'm constantly talking to him. I'm like, how's this possible? And so I remember the days after that, I started studying. I'm like, okay, Googling, you know, where can I learn firewalking? Now, Tony Robbins is the one that made firewalking famous. And I found out the institute that he trained with, a guy by the name of Tolly Buchan. And so I sent him an email and asked him, what's the cost and when does it happen? And got the dates, booked it, and went. I thought I'm just going to learn firewalking. And the moment I got there was other activities like the broken glass, the arrow, the board, etc. And I remember they said, it's my choice if I want to do it. They won't say I should do it. But I remember I did all of the activities and I got trained in it. There was only one thing that challenged me when I was there, as you take a cement brick, right, and you have to break it with your hand. And that was tough. I remember the facilitator didn't even break it. And here I have to go. And I could just see the doctor's face on the brick saying, if I just, you know, my right elbow's in such a bad space that if I just fall on it, it can disintegrate. There's hardly bone. So now I have to break a brick. And I went for the brick and I couldn't break it. I remember I traveled with that brick all the way to South Africa. That at the airport, the TSA stopped me. They wanted to go through my bag. They're like, who travels with a brick?
And why?
And why? Yeah. They couldn't believe me. And I came back, and a few months later, as the personal growth happened, I attempted the brick and I broke it.
Wow, that's amazing. But what did all of that do for your mind? Like, I mean, because it did something for me when I walked over those embers. It did something for me. What has it done for you, or what did it do for you at that time, at that point? Because, I mean, you're challenging yourself in ways you would never imagine normally.
Yes.
You know?
So just quickly, just tell me, what was your experience? What did it do for you so that I can...
So I write about it in my book. I was struggling with where I was at and how my business was going to look, and what I was going to do. And I walked across, and I think a few days later, it was very clear. Like I had like this clarity. Okay, well, it was almost like if I could do that, then I can do anything. Because
Yes.
I was suffering from all this imposter syndrome. Can I do it? Should I be doing it? What's this all about? And then when I did that, I just thought, well, I can do anything. And it gave me clarity that I didn't expect, that I didn't know where it came from or how it came, but
Yes.
it gave it to me.
That's amazing. And I think that's what some people do experience, is that clarity. For me, it wasn't that. For me, it was more of the health side, that my body can heal itself. And to know that there's processes and that the mind is powerful, that it can protect your body. And having these health problems and challenges, I need to understand the mind. That's how I ended up with Robin Banks, with the mind power. I did NLP, Joe Dispenza's online courses. It actually started with What the Bleep You Know. And Joe Dispenza was in there. That's how I got to know him. And then Dr. Emoto about the power of words on water. And I realized there's so many tools out there that can heal yourself. So I went on this total path and I need to understand this. And so it taught me that we have the power of creating not only physical health, but I like to say also magic. Do you believe in magic?
Yes.
Of course, yes.
Yes.
No, and that's the thing, is to teach people the magic of words, the magic of the mind. Just to tell you a story about how powerful the mind is and words is. On Friday, I tell my team I have an old laptop and I have an old cell phone that I use at events for a reason. And I said to them, just imagine, maybe I should put my bag somewhere that they can steal it so that I can claim from insurance. That Friday night we have an event, put my bag down, we take photos. Before we know it, my bag is gone.
Power of your words.
Power of the words.
Yeah.
And then I went on the Monday to the CCTV and they sort of find out who it is. And they can't tell me, but I start to figure it out. And I said to my words, if it's a young guy, I just want my stuff back. That's all I want. I won't press charges or anything. I want my stuff back. Tuesday morning, I got my stuff back.
Yeah.
So you understand how powerful it is. Now imagine you can do that on your body.
Yes.
Imagine you can do that in your environment, that you create magic and opportunities.
Yes. And it's funny you talk about the magic. My book's called Among Cherry Blossoms and Unicorns. And people wonder, cherry blossoms is easy to understand, but people wonder what's the unicorn symbolic of. It's the magic. That's exactly what that is. It's looking for the magic in life and in your experiences.
And here's another thing that I've learned recently is be careful also who you share your wins and potential wins with. Because the moment I stayed quiet, my wins come through easily. The moment I start voicing it to too many people, I've got the deal. For example, there was one, I got the deal. Just have to sign it. The invoice is sent, needs to be paid. I start telling everyone about it. Damn, this is my biggest deal. It's going to happen. And the next moment, get an email, sorry, we decided we're going with someone else.
And that is so true, Cobus. That has been my experience as well. And I've now adopted the thing, this thing, move in silence. Just move in silence. Just do your thing in silence. And when the time comes, it will be shared the way it's meant to be shared.
Let your results and action speaks for itself.
Yes.
Instead of you. I'm attempting to be an actor. This last year I have an agent and I'm going for auditions to evolve myself. And the same happened. I got my first part. I remember, and in the beginning, and I was so excited. I told my whole family, I told everyone. I went for the fitting. It was the afternoon. The next morning was shooting time. So everything was sorted. I knew my lines.
Yeah.
Then I get a message. The director decided it's not going ahead. And I'm like, how do I tell people now I've said to this? And that's also it was just another confirmation. And here's the next thing is that we will get confirmations on our path.
Yes.
And we have to be open to look at the signs, notice the signs, and then apply and learn from it.
Yes. And the thing with just keeping silent or keeping things to yourself, the other thing that I found really works is writing it down, like journaling about it or putting your dreams on paper and leaving it on paper, because there's two sides to that, because you're putting it out there to the universe and there's the manifestation side of that. Yeah. But then there's also just quietly putting your dreams on paper and leaving it there.
We have to. I think it's a creation, because it's making words a reality by writing it down, and it's not just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about dreams and about the things that have happened in your life, you've spoken in front of huge audiences. I saw in your book, there's a photo of you. I think it's over 1,000 people.
There was about 3,500.
3,500 people. How did that feel?
Actually, the year before, there was an event in Gallagher, and I wasn't invited to speak there. And so, and that's where you talked about writing it down. So I write down, I want to be on the same stage, and I'm going to prepare. I need to talk to someone. I need to make it happen. And exactly a year later, I was on that stage. So to stand there and soak it in, and that, wow, I've created this, not physically, but I've written it down. I've set the vision. I've visualized it. I've visualized myself many times on stage, and there it happened. And it just felt in place. We were going to do the glass walk, and we did. And there were so many challenges beforehand, approval from the venue and insurance and all of that. And at the end of the day, I just visualized that we will get it because it's destined to be. And guess what? It was,
yeah. And you see those signs all the time if it's done in a certain way.
Yes.
I've seen that myself. I wanted to ask you, well, I saw that you initially called yourself Superman.
Yes.
And then you changed, almost branded yourself the Viking. Maybe just share a little bit with us.
So don't imagine it now, but imagine me in a Superman suit, right?
I think the Viking works better.
Yes. So in 2022, I realized I didn't fit in my Superman suit. So that's not going to work. So something had to change. My business wasn't growing. It was sort of stagnating. And I know it's after COVID, but just things didn't want to gel. It didn't want to go. I did an event in the beginning of 2022, and I had my first ever negative feedback from the CEO, right? That hit me so hard to say, I need to reflect. Something is wrong, because why? People gave me great feedback, but only the CEO was unhappy out of all of the firewalks I've done before. However, I believe it had to happen because it put me on the path to reflect. And started going to recatch up on certain courses that I did in my life. And so, okay, I started with NLP. I signed up for another refresher NLP course just to refresh my mind, the sales courses that I did before, just to change my mind again, just to see why am I getting this result? And I went to a mastermind, and there was a man and a woman, a Mike and a Landy, and they're selling their coaching. And going through the process, I realized I need a coach. And then when they pitched to me, and the amount was so big, I've never paid so much for a coach. I think I talk a little bit about that in my book. And I'm like, I knew I had to change. If I didn't change now, I had to. I remember with Krupa at that time, I asked her for advice, and she's like, no, well, if you have to go for it, you need change. And I did the investment, and in like 2 months, my business started to grow again. I remember them challenging me and says, look, you're not Superman. You have to go through a transition. And it worked out perfectly, because I was 39 and I'm going to turn 40 that year. So everything worked into a way so that on my 40th birthday, at a massive event that I launched my brand, my logo and everything. And it changed my whole business. So they helped me in the process to find what they call your essence. What's your essence? What comes naturally from you? And so one way of them doing it is to go find where your heritage is from, right? Even though I stay in Africa, originally we're not from Africa, right? So where do we come from? I did DNA test. So I saw where my blood comes from, or my DNA. I went to look at that areas that it's German, Nordic, that area, and I'm like, okay, what is about? And at the same time, there was a movie or a series called The Vikings, and so I started delving in that. People started noticing that, calling me, you look like a Viking. At that time, it was Ragnar Lothbrok, and I'm like, okay, so something is, like you say, it's science is pushing me in a different way. So I did a lot of study. I bought a book about Viking and leadership in the Nordic countries, what it can teach us. Started reading it. I saw the 9 values of Vikings. I saw that it's all about community. It's all about being fearless, having courage, building a legacy. all of those values spoke to me, and it spoke to what I do. In a community, in a world where you get male and female, is that there's no one better than, it's that equality. If I have
That's
to
what I
say.
like about it, is that I saw that in your book. It's that men and women are equal.
Yes, they work together. Women could divorce men at that time. They could rule over men. And I love that because it's about tribe and community. So the thing that helped me to transition, Superman, it's a comic. It's still a child. It hasn't grown much. So people's perception, it's a comic. The color scheme is cheap because if you think McDonald's, Wimpy, etc., and Pep, it's cheap colors. Plus, he has a weakness, and he's alone. If you think he does everything, nobody knows who he is, and he has a weakness, right? Where with the Vikings, hardly has any weakness. They're fearless. You have to have courage to walk over fire and do these activities. You're going on quests, so climbing a mountain, doing acting. What is your quest that you're going to go on with, right? And so just bringing all that together, and then I teach people about values, and they have 9 values. That is, I don't know if you saw in the book.
Yes, I saw that.
And that just spoke to me. And so, things evolved. My logo changed. Everything changed. If you notice my color. So when it was Superman, it was mainly blue. And blue is the chakra of?
The
voice.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was finding my voice in that journey because I'm an introvert. I didn't know how to speak in front of people. So my whole life was to find my voice to speak. And green was the new color that came on my life. And it's
the heart.
And it's healing. Even it represents money. All of that. So it just brought out everything that is me now, especially the heart part. The hug that I teach. And it just, it just connected. However, in the beginning, it was a challenge for me to change. 10 years, a certain brand. I was a Superman fan from a young age. I have a whole room with memorabilia from Superman. I'm a softie. Now I have to turn into a warrior. How do you do that? How do you change that? How do you make that transformation? That was for me, in the beginning, a hard thing to go through. However, I think the whole journey became easy. The more I transitioned, the more I became like that, and the more it opened doors.
Well, do you think that transition was because of the coaching? Because with a previous guest that I had on the podcast, she spoke about the importance of mentorship and coaching. And I do think that coaching, I'm a coach myself. It does take you to a certain place.
Definitely. And they challenged me to up my price. So my price was up in 10 times. They helped me to refine my blueprint, my keynotes, everything, and doors opened. I've now started doing international gigs again. So through them and the coaching and the mentorship, if I was stuck, they would give me the right advice.
Yes.
And that is what sometimes people don't realize what a coach does. Yes, I know the stuff that they're teaching, but they just bring a different perspective to it and a different way of doing it. And then when I do it, I get the results.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't understand, even though our parents didn't grow up with coaches, however, life was different back then.
Yes,
it wasn't the demands we have today. It was easy to get a work. It was easy to just, if people got married, they were married for life.
Yeah. It was
social media, the world is moving faster, AI coming in. And so it's like, how do we adapt to this new world?
Yes. And you're constantly having to adapt.
Yes.
All day, every day, and as you get older, it becomes a little bit harder because you get so set in your ways and the ways in which you work.
Yes.
You get comfortable. Like now, at my age, I'm having to make sure that I know how AI works, or at least small aspects of it. Else how do you function?
Yes, because the world is going to evolve to that.
Yes.
And if we don't adapt, my dad says when he grew up, when he started the business, he think we would have been in a different place if he had a business coach to help him to grow, because he had to learn by himself. And that's what a coach does. It helps you to preempt the potholes that you're going to get so that you miss it, so you don't have to drive through the potholes.
Yes, exactly. And it takes into account who you are.
Yes.
And what your values are, which I think is wonderful. And then was it after that you climbed Kili, or was it before that?
So I climbed, I started my journey firewalking in 2012. And 2014, the health challenges started, end of 2014 to 15. And I was in crutches. I was most of the time in a wheelchair, couldn't move. So I've walked before on fire. I've had my NLP life coaching course. I have had all of that. And so I had to go make a choice around 2016, 17 to go for operations, elbow replacements, ankle replacements. And then I said to myself, before I go for it, let me see really, sometimes we learn something and we teach it. Do we really know if it works? Because sometimes we take someone else's word for it, right?
Yes.
And so I said to myself, okay, let me apply this mind power. So I work in freeze. Freeze the magic number. People usually come to me and says, oh, use this product. It's going to heal you. These MLM products. I'm not going to mention names. Then I say, okay, I will test it for 3 months. I know my body. And if it doesn't work in 3 months, I don't take it. So I've tested a lot of things. So I said to myself, okay, let me test this NLP, this mind power, all of that, goal setting, coaching, visualization. So I did that. And then life still throws you challenges, because in 2017, my ex-wife decided not to be my wife anymore and decided to move. And I just wanted to give up on life. And part of my story is in 2018, I went to go climb Kilimanjaro. That was sort of a goal and a dream. But that goal and dream after the divorce started becoming a place that I'm going to die. So that became my whole journey, is how do I die on a mountain?
And that's what you wanted to do, is die.
That's what I wanted to do. So even with all of the goals, with all of the NLP, the mind power, all of that, I thought, in a sense, I've lived a life. I've impacted people. I thought at that time that's more than enough. I've ticked a few boxes. I'm happy to go. Even though I was in not a good space, I was happy to go. I wasn't scared of death, no, nothing.
So what changed?
I died on the mountain. Even though I didn't die.
You died.
Yeah. Even though I didn't die physically.
Yes.
In a sense, I died. I went, and if you think about anything to do with, let's say, to meet up with God, is where did people go? They went up in a mountain. From all of your religious leaders in the past, or gurus, where did they go to meet God? And meet themselves is on the mountain. So in a sense, I met my maker on the mountain. I met the new version of me, and I sort of left the old there and came back a changed man.
So it was like a rebirth for you.
It was a rebirth.
And what was, I think I saw a photo in your book about you on crutches, or with the Sherpas carrying you or something like that.
Yeah, so there's one. I walked the mountain with crutches. That was the most challenging thing.
I would imagine.
I still try. It's exactly a year, 7 years ago. I think today would have been day 5 on the mountain. So I'm reliving it exactly 7 years ago. And that photo that you saw, on the way down, my body started giving in. I had altitude sickness. I couldn't breathe. And so they put you in a Kili ambulance. And so it's a stretcher with one wheel. And then they sort of put you on there, and then they run you down the mountain, because they have to get you as fast as possible to get oxygen. So they strapped me in and they ran. It's like, I remember bits and pieces of waking up with the bumps, or that one they let me fall because they went too fast. Then they pick you up and they run down. Yeah, I remember getting to the last camp. It was dark, and so a helicopter couldn't come and pick me up. I couldn't sleep that night because I was gasping for breath just to be alive. So they constantly checked on me. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you fall asleep. As you fall asleep, you can't breathe. And it's like...
that must be terrible.
It's like so really bad. Gasping for air. And I remember this story about a guru. How badly do you want it? And the guy said, I will do anything. And it's like, but what does anything mean? So he takes him to the ocean. And he says, okay, let's say how badly do you want it? And he takes his head and he puts it underwater and he keeps it there, right? That the guy later on starts fighting. And just before he gulps water, he lets him out to gasp for that breath of air. He says, you must want it as badly as you want that breath of air. Because when you're in that moment, you don't think about your past. You don't think about your future. You just think about taking air. That's all. He says that's how you should, when you have a dream and goal, think about, I want it as badly as just wanting to breathe.
And that's kind of how you've been living your life since.
Yes.
And the changes have happened. You've seen the changes after
Changes
that?
happen.
I know
happens.
life challenges happen.
Yes. Look, we make wrong
always
choices. I make wrong choices. When I don't check in with a coach, my dad usually says it's about brainstorming. And sometimes I'm like, but I know this. And when you do make choices out of ego, the world will hit you. If you don't live by your values, the world test you about your values. Do you really stand for something, or do you fall for everything? And so 2023, fell in love. I thought so and chose someone, and that impacted my life so much that after that, my business dried up. It broke me emotionally, mentally, being in a relationship that was, not to go in depth because I don't want the person to know, but it impacted me such a big time that my business dried up. I would send out 100 quotes and not one will be accepted. I remember Vodacom. Vodacom is a big company. We quote them. Then they say, no, they don't have a budget. I say, what have their budget? They say, we can spend 5K. So I will do it for 5K. They come back, they said, no, they're not going to do a team building. It's too much. I said, I will do it for you for free. They still didn't want me for free, right? That's how bad it got. However, God is so amazing that he gives us the opportunity in moments like this. So since Kilimanjaro, I wanted to write the book, but I always got too busy. Then COVID happens, then you're in survival mode because you have to get through COVID. Before you know, that's 3-4 years later. And my schedule was so busy that how do you make time? And so now I had the time. So I said, okay, well, then let's write the book. And that's where the book that you're holding comes from.
Yes.
It took me basically 12 months to put it together. And have an amazing book editor and a person that helped me to do it. There's Jacques de Villiers and Sasta that helped me to put this together. And so far I've had good reviews, but again, it gave me the opportunity to do this.
Yes.
And the moment I launched it last year on the 3rd of July, the magic happens. Suddenly business came in a matter of July, August. By September, I've hired 2 people. By October, I hired a 3rd person, right? Where do you get that? The business got so much that I had to hire people I can't do this myself.
How awesome is that? So your business has grown, your way opened up, you think because of, taking the time out, writing the book, putting all of
Making that short-term sacrifices. If you want to change your physicality, you have to go to the gym. So if you're constantly not going to have time, you're not going to change physically. But again, you can't just go to the gym.
Yeah.
You have to change your diet. There's a lot of things that we need to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the lesson learned, is that like a farmer, you can't just prepare the ground. You have to plant the seed, but then you can't just leave the seed in the ground. You have to water it. You have to care for it. So there's a lot of work in that. So I just couldn't write the book. I had to find the right people to help with it. I had to get the logo done. I had to promote it. I had to put it out there. And then I got people on my path that I told that I'm writing a book. So I have a friend in Ireland, for example. His name is Eugene Haynes, 76 years old. I've walked with him that he outwalks me, at his age, 12 kilometers easily without a thing. And the moment he learned, he believed so much in me, he sponsored my book. Now imagine, no business, no nothing. Here comes a guy I've met only once or twice, and he has a heart and says, here's the money. Let's
that is
get
fantastic,
your book out.
because it's an expensive exercise.
It's
expensive.
To
publish your own book. Yeah.
So he said, how much do you want? And give me the budget, and he paid for everything.
And what I like in your book is you've acknowledged all of the people that have meant something to you or have contributed in your life. I mean, you've spoken about your ex-partners, you speak about your children, your parents, so many other people. I mean, the list of acknowledgements is quite a long list.
Yeah,
but I want to know about your children, your boys.
Yeah. So before I get to my boys, is this became a letter to my kids, basically. So I was in the mind, if I had to die today, in a month or 2, their life will go on. They probably will survive. They will think about their dad. But what would they have of me? So the book was in a sense of the people that impacted them, that they knew their story of their dad. So the main purpose behind the book was also just for them. How would you love to have had a book of your dad, grandmother, partner, and all of that to read? Because life goes on.
Yeah.
And now I could leave them something behind. And so today they are grown men. The oldest is 15. He's basically the same height as me. It's the craziest thing to see him eye to eye. And then the 11-year-old is shoulder height, so it's also a big guy. And two beautiful young gentlemen growing up. The sad part is I've now seen them now, but before that I saw them 7 months ago. So I only see them once or twice a year for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Yeah. That's the only impact that I have. They grow up without me. They do their own things without me. So in a sense of my life, even though I've had the book, even though I inspire people, the biggest impact that I should have had is on my kids. And I'm not there for them. I'm not there for them when they get their stuff because they stay in Jeffreys Bay. It's a flight away plus a drive. So I miss out so much. And in my book is I'm a Christian and I'm a believer. And when I went for a dark place, I one night said, okay, where am I going to go? And I said to her, I'm going to go to a church. And I've put it in this book at the end of it, Rewriting the Stars. And what gave me hope, I was sitting there in the church. And this pastor is also a prophet. And he started prophesying in 1 or 2. And I was sitting there and I'm like, God, I just need an answer. I'm like, I'm at the end. I don't know. I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to do because business has dried up. The book is basically done. I was going to write the book. It was on the journey. This was in 2023. And I just didn't have hope. So sitting there, I said, God, if you exist, please talk to me. And I remember the guy points at the person just in front of me and starts talking to him. And I say, okay, God, so it's not my night. You don't exist. As he gave 1 or 2 sentences to this guy, and he looks over and he says, that gentleman, there's a fire on you. There's fire over you. He doesn't know I do fire walking and all of that. He calls me up. He talks about there's going to come fire through me. I'm going to heal people with my words. I'm going to have to stand with a microphone in my hands. Wherever I'm going to touch people, they would get healed. They will get delivered. I will help business people. I work with it to evolve, to grow their businesses, to be successful. And how is that? You understand what I'm saying? And I even wrote it in a book because that gave me the hope that I'm on the right path and this is what I'm supposed to. I just have to have faith. And that's why one thing that came out in the last 2 years for me is to have faith. To know that everything will work out, even in the most difficult times.
And I think the faith, whatever your faith is, and wherever the faith lies, is very important. I find that as well. Obviously, my path is different to yours.
Yes.
But the faith is very important. But I'm sure even though you don't see your sons or get to spend as much time as you'd like to spend with them, they obviously admire and look up to you for the things that you're doing and that you've done.
Friday night we did an event and both of them walked on fire with me. And so it was nice to experience. And I believe they do. I think one day they won't be able to say I didn't love them. And there will be videos and they will know who their dad is and what he's achieved. And hopefully through that will inspire them to follow their dreams. I remember when my son was 11 years old, he asked me, would dad want me to do what dad is doing one day? And I said, I would love that. And he said, and a little Vian. And I said, I would also love that. It's amazing because you don't have to go work. You can really do what I do. And I remember him saying, is it okay with you if I follow my heart and do what I want to do? And that's the most important. If I leave them with that and give them opportunities to go follow their passion,
yes,
that would be ideal.
Yes. But talking about a legacy, yesterday I was chatting to my daughter about one of the reasons why I wrote my book, and that was for exactly what you said now, so that one day when you're not here, people can remember. And I write in my book, it's dedicated to Dean. And the reason I wrote that, or I dedicated it to him, is because I don't want him to be forgotten. I don't want his children's children to forget or never know who he was. So the book is almost like your little vault
Yes,
of
it
putting
is.
all your stories and all your information and everything about that person in the book and the experiences. Even though mine is a very short one, it's just talking about one aspect, but it still talks volumes about who the person was,
And it's leaving somewhere. I totally agree with you, so that the future can know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So that they don't have to repeat the same mistakes, that they understand the power of family and the people we were, because we won't be able to always tell our stories.
No.
And so my challenge to people is more of them to tell your story.
Yeah, tell your story.
Even if it's videos or this, but leave something behind so that 2-3 generations from now can know this is where I come from.
And that's legacy, right?
That's legacy, yeah.
Yeah. And Cobus, where to from here?
Where to from here? I think it's making an impact in South Africa. I think if South Africa needs a lot of guidance, hope, unity, love, with everything of our history and what we've been through. Yes, we can't do much about the past, but we can bring healing to the past. We can bring healing to each other, that we meet each other. And that's why I teach things like the hug, and the heart is important for me, because it's the person. How can we take hands and change this country and help each other? And then worldwide, I like to say to people, one of my dreams is to one day stand in the United Nations and addressing all the presidents in the world, telling them, it's time for peace, it's time for hope, it's time for love, and building a global future that our next generations can be proud of, so that we can leave something behind. One way of doing it is also to empower business people, because every person they employ, impacts 8 to 9 people. So if we can impact 8 to 9 people at a time to pay it forward to have an impact, we uplift everyone. And so it's one person at a time. It's one starfish that we save and throw into the ocean at a time. And that's all that I can do. So it's not just South Africa, but it's global. It's also to empower more people that can do what I do, so that they can have an impact. So I do training once a year where I train people to do what I do, so that they can have that impact, so that we can have a knock-on effect. And even if it's just impacting one person, that one person can make a difference. That can be our next president. That can be, the next Oppenheimer that runs a big business that impacts thousands of people. So, we would never know the impact we really do and can have in someone, because we never know who we touch.
In your motivational speeches and talks, what do you typically say? What is it? I know you talk about your journey. I've heard you speak about that, and it's an incredible journey, and it's really worth. I hope people actually get the opportunity to hear your full story. But how would you motivate?
If you say motivate, how do you
like talking about what you've just spoken about now? How would you take that to a business environment, for instance?
So I understand that 100%. I think one is why I tell my story is to build a brand, so that the more I get well known, the more bigger impact I can have. With businesses, I bring in what results do you want, right? So bring in strategy, to bring accountability, to walk with them a path, to show them if you want to grow, let's create that magic and grow. Let's rather take, I like to say, the water bottle, there's place for 10 water bottles a month that you can sell. You have a market share of 4. Everyone is now complaining that the market is tough because it's not 10 anymore, it's now 8 bottles. So the market is shrinking. Your competitors are complaining. Can we create an environment where you believe the impossible is possible? That you can still have your 4 bottles, or maybe sell 5 bottles, so you keep your market share sort of grown. That you believe it works, but your competitors, that let them complain about how bad it is. I like to joke with that. So in a sense is to create an environment for growth, of reaching your targets. So it's not just a once-off approach. It's really a journey. It's about keeping people accountable. It's about keeping yourself accountable. So here's the thing, is I spoke to a client this morning and we spoke, and I said, if he's procrastinating, he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And I said, one is you don't want to do it. So that's why you're putting it on the side. Secondly is by not doing it, you're building up the list. So tomorrow it's more overwhelming to a point where you go either in depression or anxiety. And I said, from now on, anxiety is a swear word. So you're not allowed to say it. You can say, I'm excited. So now you become excited for what you have. However, is what's the pleasure and what's the pain? So I always say to people is create a pleasure. So like a business, if we grow by 50%, we all go to Mauritius for holiday. However, if I don't do the stuff and I don't do the activities, what we would do. So there's a coaching client of mine, he has long hair. So he loves his hair. I said, okay, so let's create a pen. Let's create an agreement. So if I had to say, Narina, if you say your yes, is your yes or is it not?
It's yes.
Okay, so you always by your word.
Yes.
So I can take you by your word, right? I did the same with him. And I said, okay, so if you have a list of 3 things for the day and you don't do it, we will cut off all of your hair. He's like, no, there's no way. Say, okay, but that's the agreement. If you don't do, we cut off your hair. So the pain is so big that I rather do the works I don't love because I don't want my hair cut.
Yes.
And that's creating that accountability with businesses and with people to step up and level up. Because if you don't want the pain,
then you need to.
You will implement.
Yeah. And if you were to use your voice to motivate the youth of our country, how would you do that?
So I think the important is mentorship. I think I've seen a program recently of guys that goes to communities to be fathers for those who don't have fathers, to have that impact. I think the challenge is in this generation that we're going into, if you take a generation just older than us, it's a generation now that the young people hardly can really learn from. They actually, my dad said this now, they actually learn from the younger generation because the younger generation teaches them about technology, about everything in the world. However, I think there's still a space for young people to realize, to get mentorship. So like my son now, has now signed up with a mentor. He's 15 years old, but the mentor is 22 years old, right? A guy that is very successful, that runs a business. So why not start him and having that mentor to guide you through life's challenges? Because I don't think we realize what the challenges young generation is going through. And then thirdly is to create an appointment says, instead of going for work, right, and working for someone, is to say, what is the difference you're going to make? How can you make a difference, right? So that we create an environment of paying it forward because they are basically our future. So how can we create an environment? And I think that is what's missing in our country at the moment, is there's not enough things in place to equip our young people with the right life skills, EQ, AQ, SQ, teaching them the skills to be people because they're here the whole time on their cell phone.
Yeah.
And so they don't have the soft skills. So get them to get soft skills and give them entrepreneur skills. One thing is I've noticed that young kids is sometimes they don't even know how to do things.
Yes.
Basic things, because they're so used on phones. And I think it's, how can we do that? So here's my thing is for every person that is either a business owner or a mom or a dad is to give your kids opportunity. So my kids, holiday work, get the suck out, so I have to learn how it does. And the opportunity, if they can go overseas or camps. I don't know if you were young, went on camps and to go them. Because my dad likes to say is we create memories. If you think about your life back, what do you know? Do you remember every time you spent with family and stuff? Or do you remember the memories, those moments around maybe the table or going to a show or going to a spiritual festival? What do you remember? You remember
the key things,
things.
The times where you spend that quality time with family.
You create them an experience. So now, for example, I grew up, my dad, you all loved to take us to a museum to learn about history. So I did very well with history in school. Guess what am I doing with my boys? They're like, oh, Dad, not another museum, not another. But I teach them. So one day they're going to remember that. They're going to like, I remember my dad always took us. So I'm going to do it with my kids.
Yeah. And I saw that you belong to some sort, is it a brotherhood where you, or, I like to call these women's get-togethers that I have sisterhood circles.
Yes.
You do a similar thing or did?
Yeah, I think if you think about men, there's nothing much for men at the moment. And to create a society where men can come and be men. And, we just passed a month that was about men's mental health, the power of it, because a lot of men are taking their lives, the same as women do. But the thing is, men don't talk about it.
Yeah.
They keep strong, and then something happens and you never expected it. How did that happen? You know, it's to create an environment where men can feel like men, can talk, because the world has become to a place where masculinity has become, according to the world, toxic. Masculinity is wrong. So how can you be a man if you can't be masculine? How can you provide if the world has got to a point where women also provide? Where is the world that the woman can divorce and walk away with her kids? How do you survive as a man? So I'm not saying that you know what's good or bad, but my main thing is men have been to a point where what's my purpose?
Was this all motivated by your story?
By my story and my journey of going through because where do I go? Women have women groups, have women experiences, women retreats, women. What is there for men? If you really, I want to challenge that. What is there for men?
No, I've noticed on the retreats and a lot of the things that I go to, or even when I have workshops, you get very, very little response from men.
Yeah.
So what has that been like for you? Have you gotten the response that you would need from?
It's been hard because men are tough and they don't want to show that they have a problem or things. So it's creating an environment of experiences, doing things together. However, it is a challenge though, because men are not, they don't want to make time for something like, I'm a man, I'm okay, you know, I'm going to be strong. However, it's slowly but surely it's growing. I think men are becoming more open to it. However, if I still see my events, still 60 to 70% are women. Like my retreat I'm doing now in September, out of 10 people, 2 are men.
Sure.
The rest are women. Women sign up because women are much more open to experiences than what men are. However, I think if we start that cycle in a period of 5 to 10 years, that can change. Yeah.
And I also think with the generation coming in now, I think that will change because they're more open about expressing their feelings and their fears.
Well, it took my dad, where I say to my kids every day that I love them. It took my dad 40 years to say to me he loves me. So you can see the difference already.
Yeah. But despite that, it seems like you've got a very good relationship with your dad.
Well, my dad and my relationship only got fixed in COVID.
Oh, wow. Were you together all the time?
Because I was on the farm. And so we were together every day. So we would walk in the morning and we would walk in the afternoon. So we would go walk on the farm to clear our head and talk about what's happening in COVID, what happens in the world. And so we had discussions, and then we had life discussions and hard discussions. And we got to a point where we found each other.
And obviously coming from an Afrikaans background, what you do is very different to what a person from your background would normally do. Fire walking, it's quite spiritual, a lot of your stuff. How has that been for you? Have you been criticized for it? Or?
Oh, totally. The English side of the world accepts me easier. The spiritual side, where that side of the world, Afrikaans, I get from the devil. I do devil worship. I play with fire. I'm crazy. So I've gotten that. I think a prophet is not known in his own town or culture. So you go where you make a difference. And I've lived with it, because usually I tell these people, just come to my talks. Just come and listen to what I do.
Yeah.
You know, it's usually those that haven't seen me. They just see I do fire walking and then it's wrong. But they don't want to come. And the moment they come, so I did an event, and it was for a company. And this lady, very Afrikaans, very Christian, came up to me and says, I'm here for the work because I have to be here. But just know, I'm not going to participate in anything. You're not going to change my mind. I will not do anything. You just need, this is against my religion, against my belief. I said, okay, just listen to my story. That's all that I ask. And guess what? She walked on fire that night. And I'm like, how is that possible? She said, but the way you spoke about it and the journey you talked and the story, that I just couldn't. I just knew I had to do it.
Nothing sinister about it and nothing evil about it. It's
it's just a metaphor. It's just like walking on trials. Now it's just fire.
Yeah, and it's just testing you. Well, testing your own
You know how
strength.
it felt. You didn't want to walk. And then you stood in the front of the fire. It's like the fire called you, the process. And it's like,
right up until the last minute, I remember standing there in this crowd of people and people were chanting, and I thought, no, I'm not doing this. And then something just came over me and I said, okay, well, now I am doing it.
Yes.
And the feeling afterwards was incredible.
You can't explain it.
No, you can't.
I had a guy that had third-degree burns in his life that didn't want to walk as well. And so in the end, a company as well decided, okay, do you want to walk? Yes or no? So through the probably peer pressure, they convinced him to just stand in front of fire and do it. The CEO was waiting for him. People were lined up and they said, it's your choice. If you don't want to walk, it's fine. We close it and we celebrate. And he says, no, he's going to attempt it. And I remember he was trying to move that because the first step is the hardest.
Yes.
And I told him, just focus on the CEO. Just focus on where you're going. Don't look down. It doesn't exist. And so he walks. Big Afrikaans with me. And he gets to the other side. And as he gets to the CEO, he sort of collapsed in the CEO's arms. The CEO had to catch him. And he just burst out in tears. It's the most beautiful healing that I've seen anyone receive, because he healed a lifetime of trauma, of baggage that he's carried of his whole life. Because it's not just being burned in the experience he had. It's everything that he's held on to in his life that defined him, and he just really let it go. To realize, I'm not my baggage. I'm not my past. And letting go, he said it felt like the whole world's weight fell off.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's mind-boggling.
Yes.
So you haven't done Walk with Lions or anything like that?
Yeah, I've done. I do Walk with Lions. There's a place not far from here. So the place I used to do it closed down, but there's a place in Brits that does it. So I say to people usually, that there's different camps about, no, it's wrong, it's right. I say it's not about that. It's when you're in that moment, what's the lessons we learn? What's the intent behind it? The intent is to realize the power. So these are big male lions, and however they're being brought up, it's not the question, but it's walking next to that lion, seeing the pause, hearing that breathing and that roar, and the only thing you have is a stick.
That takes a whole another level of bravery. I'm sorry.
It does.
I don't know if I'm that brave.
And when you're there to realize that the king of the jungle is afraid of a stick. When anytime they can kill you, they just have to go for it. Nobody will stop them. Where in our life are we that lion king walking, but we're too scared to live our true potential and purpose? Because someone had a stick over us, stopping us. And we're allowing other people to take our power away. Why are we giving it away? And that's the powerful lesson that I learned by having lions experience.
Wow. Well, Cobus, maybe one day I'll see you walking with the lions again, but I'll be watching from the outskirts. But I just want to say thank you very much for a really interesting afternoon. It's been wonderful chatting to you. Yes.
And thank you for the opportunity. It was fun. It was nice seeing you again, and I can see all the marks you've made in the book.
Lots of
and
marks.
That you loved it, and that the feedback is good. And thank you for that.
No, my pleasure.
Okay.
We'll catch up again.
Yes.
Thanks, Cobus.